Sugarbread by Balli Kaur Jaswal. Part 1. 1990. It was Singapore, and it was July. The early morning sun glowed orange and rose between the high buildings. Streams of light poured through the still branches of trees, and heat rose from the pavement. Ma and I walked in the shade under rows of canvas awnings. All around us, tin grills were released and unfolded. They rattled loudly, like trains running right over my ears. Shopkeepers grimaced as they dragged out shelves and crates filled with gardenia bread, jars of coconut kaya, sweet pandan bread, sticky pink cupcakes called huat kueh, packets of prawn crackers, buns plump with red bean filling, and twisty snacks. These few things could endure the sun. The shops were shadowy and cool caves inside. There were refrigerators for milk packets and freezers for popsicles and paddle pop ice cream. The first few customers shifted sideways like crabs through the narrow aisles. Tall sacks of rice lay slouched in the back, as if taking a break from the morning heat. Above them, red altars on the walls glowed with offerings of oranges and burning joss sticks. Some display cases were still chained and padlocked because it was early. The shopkeepers sighed as they squatted to fit their keys into the locks. They were always sighing. They were always tired. Ma walked in brisk, long steps, and I struggled to keep up. I had short legs. I was the smallest girl in my class. I thought she should understand this, but whenever I reminded her, she became impatient and said, "You'll grow, Pin." She had always been long-legged and elegant, so she could not sympathize. But being a little slower had its benefits. I noticed things while Ma just hurried along, and this was why she took me with her to the market. There were less crowded routes through the void decks of housing blocks, but Ma preferred passing the shops because I could spot discounts. I had good eyes, and I added and subtracted quickly. Daddy called this having good senses, and I like to think that God gave me good senses deliberately to make up for what I lacked in height. I looked out for deals from the shops, hoping that Ma would remember that she needed something and we could delay our trip to the wet market, even if it was only for a few minutes. "They are selling clothespins," I called out. Ma slowed down. I pointed to a basket sitting outside one odds and ends shop. This one was not as organized as the others. The old couple that owned it always looked puzzled when customers asked them for a set of anything. They sold every item individually: hangers, nails, pencil lead, paper towels, tiger balm. Ma called it the one-by-one shop, although its actual name, as printed on the sign above the stall, was Lee's Goods. I pointed at a tray sitting outside, filled to the brim with wooden and plastic clothespins. "Cloth peg, 1 for 5 cents. "We don't need any," Ma said after reading the sign. Then she picked up her pace, leaving me to skip again to catch up with her. "I like twisties," I said, eyeing the bags on display outside another shop. "Twisties are rubbish," Ma replied, and I knew then that there was no more delaying. We were going to the wet market, and we were going now. On Sunday mornings, Ang Mo Kio smelled faintly like smoke and something sweet. On the short walk to the market, it was always these two smells, something burning and something tempting. The heavy smell of burning came from the smoke that rose from woks in nearby 24-hour coffee shops, where red plastic chairs lay strewn around lopsided white tables. The smoke carried the aroma of onions and garlic sizzling in oil, rice noodles being fried in oyster sauce, softening vegetables stewing with chopped garlic, eggs and butter and dough, watery coconut gravy and fish curry. The sweet smell did not necessarily come from food, although it was overwhelming when we passed.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?